If you thought the border situation was bad already, wait until how it's going to look in a couple of weeks. We've got that plus a lot of recession warnings that we got to talk about. My goodness, it goes from bad to worse. No wonder the current president's approval rating is just 34%. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Trish Regan Show. I am Trish. Always good to have you here. A quick reminder that portions of today's program are brought to you by Legacy Precious Metals. There has never been a better time to invest in gold, to invest in precious metals, obviously, than right now. My goodness. And that's the kind of thing that you wished you'd already gotten it, right? Anyway, go to legacypminvestments.com for more. legacypminvestments.com. We'll talk a little bit more about that coming up a little bit later in the program. But first, I want to get to this change, this rule change that's going to have an effect, a really profound effect on our country and on our border states. U.S. officials are getting nervous. They're gearing up for what they say will be a massive stampede, a massive influx of migrants into the United States of America, thanks to the expiration of something called Title 42. Now, you probably haven't heard of Title 42 necessarily, but this was put in place during the Trump administration by the CDC, actually, to prevent people from coming here in case they might have COVID, also to prevent people from coming and crowding facilities there on the U.S. side of the border and thereby spreading COVID. So the idea was, with Title 42, you were going to have to stay in Mexico, right? Stay in Mexico before coming to the United States. Well, now that's all changing. That's all changing. And according to Homeland Security, we could be looking at 18,000 migrants per day. That's how much they're estimating, somewhere in between 12,000, 18,000 migrants per day right away, thanks to this change in the CDC rule. In fact, according to one administrator who spoke in San Antonio on Tuesday, he said that you could anticipate we will have reached 1 million apprehensions on the border in the coming days. You know what? We're already at 900,000, which means we're already double the number of apprehensions that we saw all of last year. And what is it? April? Barely April? We're just going into the month of April, and we've already had 900,000. They anticipate in the coming days that will have gone to 1 million. There are some estimates for 2 million migrants to have come to the U.S. or be apprehended on the U.S. border this year. But I suspect if this current pace, what they're anticipating, continues with the expiration of Title 42, you know what? It's going to be a lot worse than that. It is. And for some reason, we're willing to give these migrants that are coming here all kinds of protections, which is a problem in and of itself, in that I'm all for being protected, but it's a little stressful and upsetting when you see that it's actually illegals that are being protected, or criminals that are being protected, or for that matter, corrupt politicians, right? Which means it's time to actually protect ourselves and our own conservative values and our beloved country. And so I want you to take a minute here. I want you to go to amac.us/Regan, REGAN. I want you to sign up here for an organization that's going to represent your values, my values, conservative values, the American Association of Mature American Citizens. Association of Mature American Citizens. It's out there standing up for you, standing up for your family, standing up for your future every single day in America. By joining AMAC, you're going to combine the efforts of over 2.3 million members who share your values, and you're going to receive exclusive benefits like discounts on travel, cell phone plans, insurance, so much more. It's so worth it. You know, it only costs $16, so $16, and you will make that back in the first week alone if you take advantage of some of these deals. So help protect faith, family, and most importantly, freedom. Go to amac.us/Regan, sign up, take a stand for America today. We've got a lot that's happening right now, and not a whole lot of it is good. I mean, from the threat of World War III to the threat of millions of people coming here illegally that we can't account for, and of course we have to somehow find a way to manage, to the now threat of recession. These are the economic consequences of poor policy. You think about poor policy just even on the energy front. Right? I mean, again, I keep saying this, but I got to remind you, our intelligence teams knew that Putin was capable of this. So if you're a smart person, like, is the right hand not talking to the left? and you're running these meetings, if you're the president or whoever is, running these meetings for the president, because just as I told you yesterday, sometimes it's really questionable. He needs his cheat sheets just to take reporters' questions. So whoever's running these meetings and coming up with strategies, wouldn't you think, well, we got the threat of Vladimir Putin, which means we're going to be taking a lot of energy off the global energy markets. Where else can we go? What else should we do? Because we can't, let's be honest with ourselves here, deal with $9 at the gas pumps, which, by the way, we are going to be seeing come Memorial Day weekend. Watch for that, because there's no other supply coming onto the market. So why wouldn't you have said, okay, maybe it's time to tone down the rhetoric on all the green energy stuff. We can still go for that. We can still support it. But we need an immediate solution that can take place in the next several months so that we can ensure the American people are not smacked with tons of inflation. By the way, they're already dealing with tons of inflation because of really poor policy choices, again, from Team Biden, but also the Federal Reserve. They're liable in all this as well, because they've done a horrible job managing this economy and have done so. The only thing they did right was in the months during the total craziness of COVID. Of course, if you really want to go back in time, had we not had a kind of national shutdown, the Fed might not have had to intervene that much. And, you might not have had to print all those COVID stimulus checks. Anyway, it is what it is. We are where we are. The Federal Reserve screwed up, and Joe Biden continues to screw up, along with his entire party that thinks somehow the answer to everything is just to offer more money, right? That's what you see in California. It's what you're seeing in Maine. In Maine, they want to give out $800 per family to help you deal with all this inflation. Per month, by the way, per month. And Gavin Newsom's talking about $300 gas cards per month. Look, guys, the more money you put into circulation, the more it's going to drive up prices. I'm sorry, that's just how it works. I mean, this is basic stuff, but nobody really quite seems to grasp it. And the problem now is we are looking at severe economic consequences. We are looking at massive problems as we move ahead. And you have only to look at the inverted yield curve that we saw on Tuesday in the market, albeit brief, but this is a warning sign. It's a flash warning sign to all of us that the threat of recession is quite real. I don't know how you avoid it at this point. I realize fourth quarter GDP was great, but how's that ever going to continue? That was really kind of an inventory thing where everybody was running to try and stock up because they were fearful that prices would keep moving higher, and they were fearful of supply chain crises, which we're still continuing to see. I think consequently, you are going to run into a low growth, high inflation environment. Hello, Jimmy Carter, right? Okay, coming up, I want to talk some more about this recession, because indeed it is very likely, and you're seeing more and more that economists are pricing this into how they're valuing the market. But before I get to that, a quick word from one of our wonderful sponsors. I love these guys. They love me. So if you call them, make sure you use my name. I promise you, they will take good care of you. Legacy Precious Metals, 1-866-589-0560. If you're interested in investing in gold, you need to talk to them. And I would also say, if you're not investing in gold, you need to get interested in it right now. I wish you had gotten interested in it 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Actually, I told a family member 20 years ago, make sure you buy gold, when it was about $300 an ounce. And she has thanked me ever since, understandably, now as it's nearing 2,000. Look, I've said it for the last year and a half since I started this program. It is the one way that you can help ensure you hedge out some of these inflation risks. Inflation, there's no way you're going to avoid it. I mean, by the way, you have a set of policymakers there at the Federal Reserve that want inflation no matter what, right? They consider it a good thing if they can get 2 to 3% inflation. They don't want anything less than 2 to 3% inflation per year. But collectively over time, what does that do? That adds up to higher and higher and higher prices. In fact, I was doing a little experiment the other day, because I remember my first job on Wall Street was actually at Goldman Sachs, and I thought I was making like a pretty penny at the time, first job out of school kind of thing. It seemed like a good salary, right? Well, what's amazing is if you correspond it to actually what it is now, and I think they're paying them like, I want to say like it's six figures, like over $100,000 or so for a starting job on Wall Street right now. It's actually equivalent to what I was making, which was seriously nothing even next to that, back when I was first coming into the industry. That would have been in the year 1999 into 2000. So Look, inflation is real. My parents bought their house for the land for $5,000. They put up their house for $25,000. They were all in for $30K. What young family can buy a house, land, for $35,000 or $30,000? I mean, it just doesn't happen anymore, right? So there's a lot of inflation going on, and it's going to keep costing us, which is why you've got to look at diversifying yourself and making sure that you've got a portfolio of products that's going to help you in good times and in bad. So go to Legacy Precious Metals. They actually have a free guide that you can download there, legacypminvestments.com, because investing is about to get extremely challenging. One of the things I do want to highlight is that I think it's going to be a moment for investors to think long and hard about what they know and what they trust, right? We've got to, as a nation, say, should we really be encouraging people to invest in places like China or Russia or countries that maybe we don't really trust the regimes of? I have a piece on this. I encourage you to visit AmericanConsequences.com. I'm actually also going to post it on my locals page, so you can also check it out there at trishregan.locals.com. But it's a look at how we collectively really need to think hard about where we are putting our money in the world. And I come back to this. This is the country I trust. This is the country I love. This is the country I believe in, despite our challenges, especially in the near term. By the way, I think that I'm a little like the inverted yield curve. I believe 10 years out we're going to be in a good place. I feel like the next 2 years are kind of scary. So, I get where bond traders are on that. But look, we need to think about, should we be encouraging investment in some of these places, these rogue nations, in the case of Russia, or in the case of China, nations that we just simply don't trust, because it's not good for the national security interests and the economic interests of the United States. So I do a pretty in-depth piece. I do encourage you to take a look at that. Again, AmericanConsequences.com, or go to TrishRegan.locals.com, because it gets into the whole thing. Oh, by the way, importantly, you should know, S&P 500 over the last decade, it's been up more than 230%. I think the numbers are somewhere around 245%. You compare and contrast that with the emerging market overall index, MSCI, I believe, puts it out. It's up about 7.5%. So clearly the winning investment in that case has been the United States, has been US-based companies. We are going to have to do more as a nation, both as individuals, but also our governments as well, to sanction countries and individuals that, let's just say, don't share our freedom-loving values. I'm going to have more on that in tomorrow's show, because I'm sort of horrified that we haven't sanctioned more members of the sort of Russian oligarch inner circle that's related to Putin. It seems like there's no consequences, and I question why it is that this administration is so reluctant, perhaps so fearful to do so. We're talking about that tomorrow. I'll see you right back here. Thank you so much. Quick reminder, make sure that you're downloading this podcast on Apple iTunes or on Spotify. You can also find me at trishregan.locals.com, as I mentioned, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow.